don't focus on trying to do everything. Just try to be 1% better than you were yesterday. That's it. So what can you do better today that was different than you did yesterday? Maybe it's drinking more water today so you feel better. Maybe it's just avoiding the snack bar, whatever the snacks in the office, walking away. 1% better is all you have to focus on, and you will just keep gaining momentum. And I think that's my biggest advice, because I didn't start by doing everything all at once. I took small baby steps, one thing at a time, until that became a habit. And then I kept adding to it.
Welcome my guest, Kelley Tyan. Kelley has worked with thousands of women as a transformational coach, empowering them to pursue health in their mind, bodies, and souls. She's a 4-time national bikini champion, founder and host of Addicted to the Climb podcast, and a breast cancer survivor, as well as the author of Addicted to the Climb, Faith-Filled Stories of Hope, Courage, and Strength to Keep on Climbing. Her mission is to reach and transform lives by impacting one woman every day. Hey, Kelley, welcome to Passion, Love, Pursuit podcast. I'm so happy to have you on, as I was just on your podcast, Addicted to the Climb. And it's just so great to have you back on and reconnect. As we were touching on when I was on your podcast, we met so long ago back in, I think you told me it was 2012, right?
Yes.
So that seems like forever ago. And the way we met is because you were competing. I think when I met you, you were in Fitness Universe. Am I correct?
I think it was Miami Fitness Universe. Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I met you back then, which was an old life. I was doing hair and makeup for a hot second, and I happened to be able to contribute to doing your makeup for the show. And it was such a fun experience, and just meeting you. And obviously there's a very good reason why you won, just because you exude like just such a light. You exude this energy. Obviously you could tell you're a very committed woman, which we're going to go into how you even cultivated that. So, I'm just so happy we crossed paths, and now we're on a totally different path as it seems. But anyways, it's such a pleasure to have you on.
Well, thank you so much. And likewise, it is amazing reconnecting and being able to do this and meet up and see what's going on 10 years later and talking about it so we can help others, right? So this is exciting.
Yeah. Well, I gave an intro to you to the beginning of this episode. So just to start off, if you could share kind of a part of your story that has been the catalyst to get you to be the person you are today, the evolution of your new self that you now share all your gifts to the world.
Well, okay. So my name is Kelley Tyan, and I really have focused on faith and fitness for most of my life. I loved working out as a kid, in high school, in college. And I also grew up with a very faith-based mom and dad. So my mom instilled faith in me as a little girl. She suffered with rheumatoid arthritis from the minute I was born. So I watched her my whole entire life, just in and out of the hospital, in and out of surgeries, going through so many traumas, almost dying 3 to 4 times. But yet through all of that, she kept her faith so strong, more than the normal person. But I got to experience that, and it really molded me into the woman I am today, because she really proved that with God, all things are possible. And that's what I believe, because she had a halo cast. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It's a contraption that looks like there's screws in her head.
You shared that in the book. Oh my gosh.
I did. And, that was just one of her surgeries that she went through. And she always had a smile on her face. So as I grew up and I was evolving as a woman, we all go through obstacles. We all go through things in life. I just really held on to my faith, and I leaned into my faith as I went through different things in my life. So now with my fitness, I jumped into fitness around the time I was personally diagnosed with breast cancer. So I was committed to starting a boot camp and for women because I always loved, like I said, working out. And I wanted to just help women feel good about themselves. I didn't know where this boot camp would take me, but a friend was opening a gym. So I asked them if I could just go get certified as a trainer and start Kelley's boot camp for women. And that's what I did. And so it evolved. I had 12 women, local women in my community jump into the first class, and it was a month by month. And as we kept evolving and kept growing, more women coming in, I really wanted to dig deeper into nutrition. So I went and got certified in that because I wanted to help them not only work out for their, body, but they needed to learn how to eat clean along the way. And I was learning as on my journey as well. So I started working with that. And that's when I met you right after that. I did mention the breast cancer.
Yeah,
Just to
you just slid right by
I,
that.
I
Yes.
slid right by. And I do
Yeah.
want to say, I made a commitment to open Kelley's boot camp. And 2 months later, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. So I had to make a decision right away. Am I going to keep going or am I going to just have a pity party and give up? And I didn't want to take that path because what I learned growing up was that's not the path we're going on. If I want to thrive and stay addicted to my climb, I have to keep moving forward. So the breast cancer was a dead stop, a halt in my life. Like I did cry for a couple of days. I had meeting with my family. We discussed options, and it was very hard and difficult, as anybody that ever was diagnosed with something so scary knows. But I said, I'm going to do this. My mom did it. I can do it. She didn't have breast cancer, but she had so many other things. And I want women to know that I'm going to show up and keep showing up in this fitness, in my new business, and they can too, no matter what we're going through. As difficult as things are, I wanted them to see me get out of bed because I was getting out of bed at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so that's really how my life evolved and my faith evolved with my fitness. And
So one of those things that I think, as you're talking about the breast cancer, it seemed like because you made this commitment, if you want to say 2 months beforehand, it seemed like that was the thing that kind of pushed you or propelled you forward because you committed to other people, you committed to yourself. Would you say that was one of the strong catalysts to keeping you on your climb, if you want to say keeping to your commitment, because you decided, you spoke it out to the world, you committed it to yourself? Do you think that was one of the really pivotal moments that propelled you forward?
absolutely, 100%. I knew that again made that commitment, and I didn't want to quit. And why would I? And if I could get stronger in my physical body from training these women and going through these classes, I wanted to do everything I could to help myself, because who else would help me? If I just laid in bed all day and cried, where would I be today? So I really thought about that. And I thought about the women's lives that I would potentially touch by just showing up, going through, my treatment every single day. So that absolutely pushed me forward and got me out of bed at the 4:30 crack of dawn. And I'm so grateful for that every time I think about it. I mean, if I didn't have those women to meet every morning, I'm not sure what I would do. I knew I would have kept going, but they absolutely pushed me, and they were holding me accountable just as I was holding them accountable. So it worked both ways.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to pull that out, because I know the moment we make a decision, like that moment we decide, it's almost the fuel to the fire. So it really holds a lot of weight when you make a powerful decision. And so I think that was it sounds like a really pivotal point in you taking action. And then the other thing that I know, when we are so stuck in our own mind, in our own head, in our own struggles, the best way to get outside of that is serving others. And it looks like that's exactly what you're doing. And that's what you're focusing on. Like, I have a mission that I'm trying to help these women. And so I think that's really important to pull out, because anybody that's listening to this, one of the best ways to get out of your head is, how could I serve? And so I love that. That's a beautiful part of your story that I just want to recognize, like how significant that was. So I know your book is called Addicted to the Climb and also your podcast, Addicted to the Climb. So I want to know, what does that mean or signify to you in your own terms?
So life is a climb, right? That's the way I look at it. We're always climbing, and there's always a setback. We're going to go through grief in our life. But yet, through all these things that happen in our lives, if we don't keep climbing, we're going backwards. And so my podcast is really just all about inspiring and empowering and just teaching people to how to stay on the climb by having different guests on and listening to their stories and saying to themselves, if they can do it, I can do it. So it's really all about the empowerment of that. And my book is a compilation of 30 stories from my personal life that I've written and made it through each one of them, all the setbacks, obstacles I've been through, the significant ones, and how I stayed on the climb. And faith played a very big role in that as well, because I know without my faith, I don't know where I would be. So
Yeah.
that's what Addicted to the Climb is all about. And it's really just about empowerment, inspiring people to just keep on climbing. Because if you don't, you'll be stuck in the same place 1 year from now, 5 years from now. And I hate to see you look back and say, I wish I had done the thing I wanted to do so badly. Even if it's something in your career, maybe it's writing a book, maybe it's losing the 25 pounds. I talked about this today on a live I did. It's about being an almost kind of person. And I just want people to stop saying, well, I almost finished that project, but I didn't. Or I almost wrote a book, but stop doing that and finish what you start. Make a goal. Even you have to put strategy in place. It takes work, but if you don't keep climbing, you're going to be stuck and you're going to be frustrated, and then you're going to be in the same place and nothing will change. So that's my mission. I want to help people to just keep on climbing.
So beautifully said. And I think growth is just so essential to life. If you're not growing, you're dying. As you said, it's either if you're not growing, you're either stagnant or you're going backwards. So we need to keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep climbing. And I love how you say in the book, you said, one thing I realize and know for sure is that the only thing that we can count on in life, there's always going to be another mountain to climb. It's just how we decide to take the first step. And in stating that, that's what I think is so important, is that there's always going to be peaks and valleys. And we just have to learn how to reframe these challenges and push through, have the courage to go over those mountains. And for those listening today that are just feeling at the bottom of the mountain and they haven't taken the first step up that climb, what would you say to them?
I would say to embrace discomfort, because it is going to be very uncomfortable to take that first step. I have been there in every way possible. I had to take a step forward after losing my mom, who was my lifeline. I mean, I'm an only child. We were best friends since from the minute I was born. So when she passed almost 4 years ago, it was life-changing for me. But I had to take that in and just take a step forward, or else I could have cried every single moment of every single day and it wouldn't have gotten me anywhere. So it's like a health journey as well. If you're, again, wanting to lose 20 pounds right now and you're frustrated and you're scared, can I do this? And fearful, what if I give up on myself? You have to embrace discomfort right away and know that it's going to be very hard. But if that next person did it, somebody else is doing it right now, you absolutely have everything inside of you to do the same thing. It's all a matter of just embracing it, taking the step, maybe having a coach, somebody, an accountability partner is the key. I say, don't do it alone. It's so much harder to do things alone and so much easier when you're with someone that's a few steps ahead of you that can guide you. So, just facing the facts that it's going to be difficult, but I can do this, and believing in yourself. That's your very first step. And I promise you that if you take that first step, the next step will be easier. The next step will be easier mentally. The thing you're doing might not be easy,
Right.
but the more you create momentum because you're climbing and you keep going, you're going to just be so proud of yourself that you did, and you're going to want to do it again and again. So
So
that's
true.
my advice.
So true. And what I was going to say to that is when you do something new, no matter what it's going to feel, you're going to have fear because it's unknown. And people naturally have fear when something is unknown, but courage is continuing forward regardless if you have fear or not. And
Mhm.
so that's the thing, is just being uncomfortable and just knowing it might be uncomfortable at first, but the more you do something, as I like when I started this podcast, I wouldn't go on video. I felt like I don't know how to interview people. I need a paper in front of me, like all these things. But the more I did, the more comfortable I got. And obviously, like being on camera, it's great. It's fun. It's you get to connect
It's
this
so,
way.
it is
So
so true,
you just
Erica.
continued. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I was going to just add to the podcast thing. I literally, one of my girlfriends just took my microphone out and put it on my desk, and she sat down in my office and said, Kelley, we're recording. And I was like, wait, but I'm not ready. But I kept telling her I wasn't ready for almost 3-4 months. And she kept asking me, are you going to do the podcast? And again, until you just jump in and do the thing, it's scary. But
Exactly.
the courage has to kick in and just try it.
Yes, exactly. And so you mentioned the hardest point of your life was when your mother passed. And I could only imagine being an only child and how close you were. She was your best friend. And I read the story. It was kind of all of a sudden, as well as you were enduring something else with your father. So that is just a compound effect of so many things. And since I am personally, as I shared, going through grief with the loss of my dog, which was to me also one of the most closest things, he was one of my closest family members, most definitely. And I know everybody's process of grief is different and it's not to be judged. There's no time limit on grief, but I'm just curious the first steps, because losing something so significant for anyone listening right now, do you have any suggestion, just your own personal suggestion that helped you? And of course, I'm sure faith is a big part of that, but
Mhm.
how did you begin to move through your grief? And I say through because I do believe we need to process the grief. We need to go through the stages and we need to feel all the feelings so that they could fully move through us. And so I'm just curious how you began to move through that.
So thank you for asking this question. And, I'm going to be really honest. I didn't handle it in the right way at all. And my advice would be to not do what I did. So if I'm going to give you some advice, it's do not isolate yourself.
Mm.
That's what I did. And it kept me in such an awful place. And if I could go back, I would have probably reached out to more people because I felt really stuck. And yes, it was my faith that eventually got me out. I ended up, I got into prayer. I'm very prayerful, reading my Bible. That really helped me when nobody else was around. But I say just tapping into somebody that's been where you're at, because nobody really does understand grief in the way you're like you, Erica, with your dog. If you're talking to somebody that never lost an animal, they really can't understand. And they look at you and they try, but I think it frustrates the person that lost someone. And instead reach out to somebody that's been there, that knows how you feel. And you can, even if you don't have anybody in your immediate circle, there are people out there that, through communities that have different grief communities. So whether you lost an animal, you lost a mother, a sister, there are people out there that you can be part of. And I say, do that, because then you're all understanding each other instead of isolating yourself. And because it's a very lonely place. And I know you took hikes and did things, like that, which is beautiful. I used to go on walks and just when I was alone, but leaning into prayer would be my number one, in reaching out to community or somebody that's been where you are.
I love that you share the lesson you learned. And if you were to go back, you now recognize what possibly wasn't serving you at that time. And I think that's, a lot of people, when they're depressed, they do isolate. I think that's the normal part of depression. And we do have to, again, try to do things that could help us climb out of the mess or the obstacle we're in or the adversity. And that's one of the things that I think is so true. When you're grieving, it's great to find somebody that understands your type of grief. And I think that's one thing I noticed. I had certain people, or honestly, there was only 2 people that commented negatively to me grieving about the loss of my dog. And utterly shocked because I'm like, wow, you just don't understand. But then I had so much compassion and empathy and love from people that deeply understood. So that definitely outweighed the two people, if you want to say. And also it created all I did is create boundaries with those people or anybody that would comment such a thing. And that's the thing, is having people that could really understand where you're at. It's so helpful. And I know for myself, one of the biggest lessons I learned from the loss of my dog, it came over me like just a heavy emotion of having such a compassion and empathy for people through all their struggles. And that was something that I gained through the loss of my dog. So I'm curious, being that you, because I feel life is constantly teaching us lessons and it's meant to help us to grow. So I'm curious, from the loss of your mom, what then did you feel like you learned something and you grew from it in a whole different way that you have never experienced before because of that such a significant loss?
I do. I feel, what broke me was the death of my mother, but it also built me to encourage and empower women today, and to encourage and help other women that lose their moms. Because a lot of people have reached out to me. How did you do this, Kelley? How do you get through it? I just lost my mother. So yes, those things will break you, but I feel God has a plan for us. And if we stay on the path, he is molding, there's always going to be something beautiful that can come out of something broken. And I truly believe that. And I hold on to that. And I try to just be an example to others that, listen, I got through the death of my mom. I also lost an animal, Erica, so I completely understand about that. But you will get through, and I did get through, and I wrote a beautiful book. I never thought I didn't even know I was going to write a book at that moment. In that came out of the death of my mom. It really did. And it's all inspiring stories that I've been through, like I said. But I think the death, you asked me specifically about her death, and I think this book really evolved from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it remarkable that, of course, when you're in the struggle and the adversity, you don't see the other side of what will learn from it, grow from it, and how much more will be strengthened from it. So
Right.
it's definitely encouraging, because when you're in the thick of the struggle, you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so this story and what you share, of course, in your book, is examples of the light at the end of the tunnel, that you got through these, if you want to say, adversities. Like, all of them are some form of adversity, and big, small, it doesn't matter. We're still climbing, right? Regardless.
Right.
And so one question in regards to faith, how do you feel your courage has shifted as you lean into your faith?
Well, I get my courage through God, because there are many days I don't feel like, and I can give you a lot of examples. God gives me courage in so many ways to do what I do, to pick up the phone and help another woman with their weight loss journey. And my faith plays a role in all of that. So I do lean in with prayer. I ask God to help me with the words I'm going to say to someone, how, with my podcast, who am I speaking to? My faith is like everything. And I've had the courage. My courage really has gotten stronger because I've leaned in to God deeper, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
No, that's
I
beautiful.
wasn't like that. I really wasn't always like this. I did grow up in a Christian home,
Hmm.
but I did my own thing, and I knew God was there, but I kind of came to him, came to him, left him over my life. And after my mom passed again, I always saw her with her Bible in her hand my whole life. And at certain points, I'd laugh at her. I'm like, what is she reading? Why does she have that Bible in her hand all the time? But it gave her the peace and the strength for her to wake up every day. So after she passed, I really started saying to myself, wow, I think I'm going to pick that Bible up and see what really got her through her days of her life going through this illness. And my courage really grew from that, in my strength for my own life. So my faith, picking up the Bible, just praying, and it has evolved tremendously is all I have to say.
Yeah.
A whole different person.
And that's what I was going to say. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Anybody that has had some sort of faith, sometimes it goes up and down. And usually when we're struggling, that's when we return to God and try to cultivate that relationship. And then our life's going smooth. And then we might kind of distance ourselves and not return as often to prayer and whatnot. So for somebody that is possibly that doesn't have yet that relationship, maybe think of your former self that you were maybe like, kind of wavering. What would you say to them to continue to cultivate a new relationship or a relationship with a higher power, God, whatever it may be to them?
Right. I just say, speak, talk to God. It like you would talk to your best friend, your spouse, your sister. It's the same thing. My mom always taught me to do that. She would say, Kelley, God is right there. The Lord loves you so much. Talk to him like you're talking to anybody else. I think people are afraid sometimes. They say, because they say to me, I don't know what to pray. I don't know how to pray. Well, it doesn't have to be some formal, you can say a prayer from the Bible, Our Father who art in heaven, the prayers that are written. However, you can really just have a conversation, just like you and I, and ask God what you want in your life. What are your passions? Are you stuck right now? Maybe you don't know which route to go on. Maybe you're going from one job to another, starting a business. Maybe you need help in your weight loss. Talk to God is all I have to say, and just ask him to give you the strength. Maybe send someone into your path, open a door for you, and see what happens. Take a chance on God if nothing else is working. That's what I have to say.
Beautiful. I actually stumbled upon this yesterday. I was scrolling through reels and I found, and I will plug this in the show notes because I found it to be really powerful, because you mentioned some people don't know what to pray about. And I'm one of those people. I'm like, I don't know. I'll sometimes just flow into whatever prayer is drawn from my heart. But sometimes I wouldn't say we judge our prayers, but if we could articulate it or learn how to articulate a way to ask for guidance, clarity, or whatever is really inspiring. So I found this Instagram that I started following yesterday that was a girl that would say prayers like pray with me. And she was sharing these beautiful prayers. One of them had to do with clarity. And it really struck me, and it was inspiring. So I'll include that in the show notes, because as you're speaking about, like, sometimes people don't know how to pray, but it really just is whatever comes from your heart. But if you're asking for guidance, this might help inspire you. So I'll just include that in the show notes. It inspired me, I can say.
Yes, there is no right and wrong. Just so you know, there's no right and wrong to prayer.
No.
Whatever's on your heart at that moment. Maybe you're in pain, maybe you're struggling, you just got in a fight with your friend. I mean, it's just talking to him, inventing really, and asking him for help.
Yes.
So,
yeah. And so how does one derive meaning from their relationship with God, or how does that impact their ability to manifest what they desire, the results in their life, professionally and personally, would you say?
well, I mean, so I put all my faith in God. So when I do that and I stick to that instead of doing things on my own, I feel he does open doors and closes doors for me. I think, there's things I want to do in my own humanness, but when I speak things out and I ask God to partner up with me on that, he either does or he doesn't, because not everything is open doors, as we know. Sometimes I feel God closes doors, and that's a blessing too. But I know that I'm walking with him and we're doing it together. So if a door does close, I know he didn't want me to do that thing. And then if it opens, then I keep going. So it's just partnering up, keeping my faith strong, and really being in agreement where God closes the door and where he opens the door.
I love that. I love that. And it's so true that some doors he just doesn't want to open for you,
Right.
but it's just a redirection of where you need to head.
Right. And that's okay, because we have to be okay with that. If we're praying about something, we also have to be okay if God doesn't want you to do that thing, and know that it's for your benefit. There are many things that I've wanted, and he just was not it just wasn't happening. And I would be frustrated, but I'm like, but I prayed about that. And then I had to step back and say, wait a minute, I did pray about that a lot. So maybe it's not for me, because God is for you, not against you. He wants you to be prosperous. He wants you to live beautiful life. He wants you to feel fulfillment. God is on your side no matter what. So he doesn't, if a door does get closed and you did pray about it, don't think, well, God doesn't love me anymore. And he doesn't, he's closing. No, it's for your benefit. He has something bigger and better for you. So be patient.
Yes, absolutely. And so I know you are a very driven woman. Obviously, I witness you. You've competed 4 times and you've won all the titles for your fitness competitions, which is remarkable. So asking you about that drive and motivation, how do you gain that, and how do you maintain that? So, I know obviously, as we're mentioning, faith is a big part, but I know there's more integration in that.
Definitely. I mean, that was a really hard thing to do. It wasn't just getting on stage in a bikini. It was a lot of prep and discipline. And I honestly jumped into that moment in life because I wanted to really challenge myself and see if I could actually do it. And I learned so much about myself. I did learn how to be disciplined. Learned how to dedicate to myself. I wanted to hit a goal and complete a 16-week prep program. And I knew I didn't want to quit. So it really helped me strengthen that part of who I was. It really showed me who I'm made of. And yes, faith obviously played a role, but it was more about setting up disciplines in my life, locking arms with my coach, and just following through. I just made sure I showed up every day and did what was on my agenda. I think mapping it out, having a plan, following what you say you're going to do, but having it all written down to keep yourself on track. If you really want to have a breakthrough, you have to show up consistently. And that's what I did through those competitions. And it was just such an amazing experience, the whole thing.
So write down your steps, your goals, stay committed, go fully in and not quit. That's key. But I know sometimes that's hard because again, we're climbing a hill or we're climbing a mountain, and it can get challenging. So in that time that you were competing, do you recall a moment that was really challenging and you wanted to quit, but something just kept you going? And what would you recommend for somebody that is just, I know like people are afraid of failure because they don't want to look bad. They don't want to, like, for example, when you're going after this, the fitness competition, I'm sure you're thinking you don't want to fail. You want to accomplish this goal. Maybe that crossed your mind, maybe it didn't, but a lot of people are afraid of that. So was there a point you were struggling? And then how did you pick yourself back up?
There were so many moments where I struggled, because think about this. I'm on a show prep diet, nutrition. I had to be in the gym for I would say an hour and a half to almost 2 hours, 6 days a week. So it was very regimented, and I had to face every holiday, my birthday. I mean, I did this for 2 years. So there was Easter, Mother's Day, Halloween. I mean, these were moments where they were stressful. But again, I said, I am committed to what I said I'm going to do. As hard as this, yes, I had to cry. I probably cried on certain holidays because, I just had to work through it. And I just kept saying to myself, I looked at my coach. Okay, she did it. I could do it. I think that's what helps me get through a lot of the things I get through, is looking at other people and saying, well, they're not different than me. I have what it takes, just like her. She started a podcast. Why can't I start a podcast? She left her job and started her own business. Why can't I do that? So I really look at it that way. And I looked at all these women in the fitness industry competing and having fun and finding out who they really were, and building more courage and strength in ourselves. I didn't want to quit. So I just kept telling myself, it's only a day. There's always going to be another holiday, whatever I was facing at that time. I just kept saying, just keep going, Kelley. Maybe I fell off I think I had some goldfish one day. It wasn't
That's
on my plan. And I'm like, I
that's
probably
funny.
had too many. But I just said, okay, I'm jumping on, I'm going to be better tomorrow. And I'm just jumping back on, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to finish this out, because if they did it, I can do it. So that's really my mentality.
Love that. And I just realized my heater is running in the background. I was wondering, what's that noise? So sorry, y'all, for the background noise. That's the heater. It's
I can't
cozy in
hear it.
here.
I can't.
Okay, good.
You have a heater on. You're in LA.
I know lately it's been really cold in the house. So I wanted to be cozy. I know my boyfriend was saying the same thing. He's like, it's not cold. It's cold.
Okay, I'm in Boston. It's cold.
I know. I know you've mentioned that non-negotiables are super important to creating success. So, what does non-negotiables look like to you, and how do you like? What's some questions we should ask ourselves to arrive at those non-negotiables for ourselves and our goals?
Yes, I am very big into non-negotiables. That's how I am where I am today. Again, people ask me all the time, how do you just keep working out even if you don't want to? Well, at this point in my life, I established a few non-negotiables. Number one is my prayer time, my morning routine. That is a non-negotiable. Yes, there's days that maybe I run out the door, but that I made a priority. A non-negotiable is a priority. So whatever goal you're going for, you need to have at least 3 top priorities that you will accomplish in the day to get to your goal. So my non-negotiable is getting my workout clothes on no matter what, because once I have them on, I will get a workout in, and just showing up. I mean, my prayer time, I said, is one. I mean, these are going to be different for everyone, but you have to have 3 non-negotiables in place that you are going to stick to what you said you were going to do no matter what. Because listen, let's be real. Life gets in the way. We have kids, we have families, we have jobs. But if we start making excuses about why we can't do what we're going to do, you won't get there.
Yeah.
So it's like a hair appointment. If you want to get stronger and you want to go to the gym, then it has to be an appointment in your calendar every day, or 3 days a week. It doesn't have to be every day, but I'm going to do this for 20 minutes, 30 minutes at this time, and stick to it, because you wouldn't break a hair appointment, would you? Never. Right?
That's funny.
You just wouldn't.
Yeah. And when it comes to fitness, I'm sure you could agree with this. Do it in the morning, get it out of the way before life happens. Because if you wait till the end of the day, unless you have a schedule where you go after work, you're ready with your gym bag going, that works. I used to do that, but I do find having your workout in the morning
I do too.
definitely sets you up for success. So I think that's
Yes.
really important. One
Right.
part in the book that I really love that I wanted to pull out is you said is waiting for the green light to go. And so this was basically saying like letting God lead you on the path when you feel lost in the direction. I think a lot of people uh, don't always have clarity of the direction to go. I know I've been there very, very much. And the way I arrived at guidance, if you want to say, is when I created that space in my mind, meaning remove all the noise
Mhm.
and go. At the time, I remember I went on like you could just say a walk, just to be without my phone, be without any external noise except for nature. And that's when I was able to get kind of that download, whether it be from God or from myself, whatever universe
Mhm.
is creating that space, and that space for your, higher self or God to speak to you and show you the next direction and give you clarity. So I think
Mhm.
that was I really loved that specific thing, because I think a lot of people could really remember the times they've not felt clear on the next direction. But I love how you say like leaning into God and letting him to kind of give you the green light to know when to go a
Mhm.
certain direction.
And I think a lot of people they want clarity, but yet they don't want to sit quietly enough to get it. So they're too busy. Our minds are racing all day from the minute we wake up. And that's why I'm so adamant. My non-negotiable is having my quiet time in the morning. I mean, I call it my prayer time, but just having that little bit, take the time out for you. That's also called self-care, because our days can just get away from us. And then half the time we're running around with our heads cut off, right? I mean, honestly, you can wake up and start going in until you collapse at night. So if you don't take quiet time, yet you're feeling frustrated, you don't know you don't have clarity of what direction you should be going. You want it so badly, but you're not taking the quiet time. I say, find a way, whether you have to get up 15 minutes earlier. I know it's a struggle, but if you really want to get clarity in something, your goal, what you're doing in life, take some quiet time to be within your own thoughts, because things will evolve from that. You can't get clarity if you're running, and your mind is swamped with too many things. You'll never even hear your own thoughts of where you should be. And I really believe that until I was still in my own mind, I really got direction of where I should be going. So I'm glad you pointed that story out, because
Yeah.
that's a good one.
It's like slow down to speed up.
Yes.
We sometimes,
Yes.
yes, life. That's why I think a lot of people seek that, because we are going, and life seems to go so fast. And if we don't really
Mhm.
pause,
Right.
I read this, I forgot what book it was and who it was from, but it's called Power, or it was a chapter on the power of the pause, like how much power is in you pausing.
Ugh.
You'll gain more clarity. You'll
Mhm.
be able to like feel renewed
Mm.
because you've lowered your stress. And so power in
Yes.
the pause, I think, is so important, because and then you have the ability to, maybe put your foot back on the gas even more, strong the next time, because you've actually
Exactly.
paused. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. You
Yeah.
can reevaluate what you're doing. Oh, wait a minute. This isn't working. Well, I never thought of it. Okay. Well, now I'm going to go this way. Absolutely. But you need to just be quiet.
Yep.
Quiet.
Yep. Absolutely. And so I know, like, so many people, when things are so challenging, it's so easy to want to quit before we obtain our goal. What is another piece of advice you would add to that, to just continue on that climb to achieve what you desire? Like, what's your best recommendations? I know you break down the book into faith, fuel, and
Mhm.
fitness, and we haven't quite touched on the fuel aspect, but what would you add to that to continue on the climb of achieving any goal you desire, or anything you want in life?
I just say get addicted to growth, because if you're not growing, you said it first, you're going backwards or you're staying the same. And if you want to keep climbing, you need to want to grow. So maybe you're stuck in you're feeling stagnant right now and frustrated. Well, maybe turn on some podcasts that are going to inspire you, and you're going to grow after listening to this podcast. They gave you tips, they gave you tools to take. You write notes down. Get addicted to wanting to grow, and that's how you're going to keep climbing. You're going to evolve, because we don't want to be the same person we are in 1 year from now,
No.
right? But the only way to do that is to get involved, listen to podcasts, tune into, if you want to grow in your faith, go to church, find a community that's faith-based, find communities on Facebook. There's so many different groups you can be involved in, but I think getting addicted to growing is in personal. I know we talk about that, Erica. Personal growth is everything,
Yeah.
because I know for me, until I really focused on personal growth, I was in the same place year after year, and I was bored, and I never knew how to get unstuck. So I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to different mentors. I got a coach. I did all the things so I could help myself get further along, so I could grow. Then I can help others.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest, is your
And
own
one
personal
thing,
growth.
yeah, and one thing I do is I use net time, so no extra time to listen to empowering content or personal growth content. So while I'm getting ready, I'll be listening to a YouTube video or a podcast.
Exactly.
While I'm working out, I'll be listening to a podcast. So I utilize that
Yeah.
no extra time I have to fill in some positive, motivating, inspiring content. So I know I'm getting it in. I'm feeding my brain, I'm feeding my mind with positivity and things that are going to inspire
Yes.
me and propel me forward.
Yes.
And help it seep into my subconscious mind so that anything that doesn't serve me is erased. That would be the
I
ideal,
love
right?
that. Oh, that is perfect. That's so good, Erica. I love that because I learned over the last even like 5 years to just keep inputting the good. So eventually it will help me when I have negative mindset. You want to keep putting good in because that's going to come out of you. And if you,
Repetition,
right,
repetition,
it's
because
repetition of doing good and hearing good and listening to good and empowering. It
yeah,
becomes who
I
you are.
exactly. And I know that I still, of course, like any human, I still get negative thoughts. I still get in
Right.
this negative pattern of way of thinking. And I know that the only way that's going to help serve me in removing that is by repetition of listening to things that change that belief or that mindset. And so again, we're human. We are going to have these thoughts, fears, and everything that are going to weigh us down or adversities. But if you fill your mind with things that inspire and empower you, as your podcast, as your book, and my podcast, everything, it's gonna help you on the
Yes.
climb of achieving everything you want in life.
Right.
And so, my last question I always ask all my guests, just to kind of close off, is if you were to share a piece of advice that you feel anybody needs to hear right now, what would that be?
Good question. I would say don't focus on trying to do everything. Just try to be 1% better than you were yesterday. That's it. So, what can you do better today that was different than you did yesterday? Maybe it's drinking more water today so you feel better. Maybe it's just avoiding the snack bar, whatever the snacks in the office, walking away. 1% better is all you have to focus on, and you will just keep gaining momentum. And I think that's my biggest advice because I didn't start by doing everything all at once. I took small, small baby steps, one thing at a time until that became a habit. And then I kept adding to it. So that's what I would say.
I love that. Yes, for sure. And I think that's so great that you mentioned that, because if we do it all at once, it could become really overwhelming. And so
Mhm.
just that, like, just leaning into, oh, just 1% better, just little
Yeah.
things, like you said, drinking more water, to what could I do today to improve how I
Mhm.
was since yesterday. I love
Right.
that. That's so great. So what else? I know you have a couple offerings on your website. Of course, we'll plug that in. We have, of course, your newest book, which I would love everybody to grab, Addicted to the Climb. I'll plug that in the show notes as well. Where can people best follow you?
They can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. They're both Kelley Tyan, KelleyTyan. And I hang out a lot on both. So, and my website is the same, kelleytyan.com. My programs
Amazing.
are all there. Yes. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Kelley, so much. This has been so great. And I just love connecting with you again and seeing your beautiful face and all that you're doing. And you just have such a great group of women around you. And it shows so much in how you are serving other women as well. And just all you're doing is just so beautiful. So I'm so proud of you. And this is just so great. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Erica.